What if I told you that beneath the sands of the desert still pulse questions that neither time nor science have been able to answer? Egypt is not just history, it is a persistent whisper from the past that refuses to fall silent. It is a vast puzzle where key pieces are missing, where what we think we know is only the surface, and what we don't yet understand could change everything. Before we continue, I want to propose something to you. If you've ever felt that the past still holds secrets, if you've ever stood before a ruin, an image or a symbol, wondering, what if it wasn't the way we were told, then this channel is for you. Subscribe to Cronoearth. Your support not only allows us to keep creating documentaries like this one, based on evidence, with rigor and passion, it also helps us build a community of people who won't settle for easy answers, people who want to look deeper. Leave us a like if you're intrigued by what's coming, and if by the end something makes you see things differently, share it, because these stories shouldn't remain buried, they should be told, and you can be part of that. Today I invite you on a journey through 11 real mysteries, proven, studied, and still unsolved, that show us that ancient Egypt is not as distant as we think. It's here beneath our feet, and it's still alive. What you're about to see is neither fiction nor conspiracy. They are real questions that archaeologists, Egyptologists, and experts still debate today. Because in Egypt, every discovery answers one question, but opens 3 new ones. And as we go through them, think, which of these mysteries would change your view of history if it were ever solved? Leave a comment at the end, telling us which one struck you the most. Now then, let's begin. Mystery 1. The Great Pyramid and its hidden chambers. The void that still holds a voice. Imagine building the most precise structure of the ancient world, and hiding within its core a space with no access, no name, and no explanation. The Great Pyramid of Giza needs no introduction. It is the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. A structure of more than 2 million blocks, aligned with millimetric astronomical precision. A monument built over 4,500 years ago, and even today, we don't fully understand it. For centuries, it symbolized death, eternity, power, but now we know something more. There is something hidden inside, something not excavated, not looted, something that simply waits. In 2017, the International Scan Pyramids project revealed the unthinkable. Using muography technology, capable of detecting cosmic particles passing through stone, researchers discovered a hidden void more than 30 meters long, located just above the Grand Gallery. No tunnels, no corridors, no visible doors, just stone, and within that stone, an invisible space. Silent, inaccessible, intact. What is it? Experts have been cautious. They simply call it an anomalous void. But that technical coldness does little to hide the unease it provokes. Because the Egyptians did nothing by chance. Every shaft, every chamber, every angle of the pyramid had a precise purpose. Astronomical, symbolic, funerary, spiritual. So why build such a large cavity, with no way in and no way to see it? Some hypotheses point to a structural function, but that theory doesn't convince everyone. No other Egyptian building shows a similar design. Others suggest it was a ritual chamber, not meant for the living, but for the pharaoh's soul on its journey to the afterlife, a channel to the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. And others, bolder still, believe there may be something inside, something deliberately concealed, not a sarcophagus, not treasure, but something that could challenge our entire view of ancient Egypt. Lost texts, a secret library, a second symbolic tomb for Khufu, to protect his soul or to hide his true fate. The truth is that nobody knows. And the most unsettling part is this. To this day, nobody has entered. No probes, no micro cameras have been sent inside, not for lack of resources, but by decision. An ethical, political, perhaps even spiritual decision. Is it fear, respect, or are we simply not ready for what we might find? This is the only major modern archaeological discovery confirmed inside the Great Pyramid in over a century, and yet, it remains sealed. It still waits. Perhaps the most disturbing thing is not its contents, but the silence. Because the Great Pyramid was built to speak with the gods, and perhaps this chamber still has something to say. Did you know about this discovery? Did you imagine that hidden chambers might still exist inside the most famous pyramid in the world? Leave it in the comments with the phrase, "The chambers still breathe." That way we'll know how many of you feel the past still holds secrets and deserves to be heard. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching, because what comes next isn't about stone blocks, but about who ordered them to be placed and what he may have taken to the grave. Mystery 2. How was the Great Pyramid really built? 146 meters tall, 2.3 million blocks, some weighing up to 70 tons. All of this more than 4,500 years ago, and we still don't understand how they did it. Every civilization has a turning point, a milestone, a feat that seems to surpass its own limits. For ancient Egypt, that milestone is the Great Pyramid of Giza, erected around 2560 BC. During the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, the Great Pyramid is the only one of the seven wonders of the ancient world still standing. But beyond its majesty, the greatest enigma is how it was built. For centuries, this question has puzzled historians, archaeologists, and engineers worldwide, because the answer, to this day, remains unclear. It is estimated that its construction lasted about 20 years. That would mean moving and placing, on average, more than 300 stone blocks per day, one every 5 minutes, for 2 decades, without counting rest days, accidents, or human error. The outer limestone casing stones came from Tura, east of the Nile. The inner red granite blocks came from the south, from the quarries of Aswan, more than 800 kilometers away. How were they transported? How were they cut with such precision without modern tools? How were they raised to nearly 150 meters high? The traditional theories, the most widely accepted hypothesis suggests the use of ramps, a massive structure of mud brick and stone along which the blocks were dragged. But here arise the first problems. Where are the remains of such a ramp? To reach the top with a workable slope, the ramp would have had to be longer than the pyramid itself. How did it support its own weight? How was it dismantled without leaving a trace? Others propose spiral ramps, counterweight systems, or even primitive cranes. Possible theories, but none fully proven. So then, how was it done? The problem is not only physical, it's organizational. It's estimated that between 20,000 and 30,000 workers were needed for this colossal project, but they weren't slaves. As Hollywood popularized, excavations around the site have revealed entire workers' villages with ovens, bakeries, workshops, even medical facilities, a city built for the sole purpose of constructing one monument, an almost military organization, a state capable of mobilizing resources from all over Egypt, a people who built not only to honor their pharaoh, but with the conviction that the work ensured the balance of the cosmos. But even with that motivation, the technical challenge remains immense. Lost knowledge? And then comes the question, is it possible the ancient Egyptians possessed technical knowledge we don't yet understand? A way of thinking, of planning, of manipulating materials that we have not managed to reconstruct. Some archaeologists believe the secret lies not in advanced technology, but in accumulated experience, over 1,000 years of pyramids, trials, errors, and refinements. But others insist the Great Pyramid has no precedent. No earlier pyramid comes close to its precision, none that followed surpasses it, and that opens the door to more daring theories, exchanges of knowledge with other cultures, astronomical wisdom more advanced than we thought, or simply, a lost method that for now, only the stone remembers, because the truth is that no blueprint, no detailed record of its construction has ever been found, only the pyramid itself, solid, silent, impossible to ignore. What do you think? Was it the work of brilliant engineering, or something more? Write in the comments. Lost knowledge is never buried forever. We want to know how many of you still believe the mysteries of the past are waiting to be understood. Leave us a like if this journey through ancient Egypt is fascinating you, and subscribe to Cronoearth so we can keep producing this content with the quality and respect these stories deserve. Because what comes next is even more unsettling, a subterranean labyrinth described in ancient texts, but absent from modern maps. And if it's real, it could hide the greatest lost archive of all Egyptian civilization. Mystery 3. The Lost Labyrinth, beneath Saqqara. They described it as a marvel, more astounding than the pyramids. Thousands of rooms, endless passages, and yet today, no one knows where it is. 30 kilometers south of Cairo, Saqqara was one of Egypt's oldest necropolises. There stands the Step Pyramid of Pharaoh Djoser, considered the first great stone structure in history. But what might be buried beneath its sands could change everything. The Greek historian Herodotus visited Egypt in the 5th century BC and left behind one of the most enigmatic accounts of all. I saw a building that far surpassed even the pyramids. It contained 3,000 chambers, half underground and half above ground. No man could describe it. The passages were endless. That building, according to Herodotus, was near Lake Moeris, today identified with the Fayum oasis, close to Saqqara. It became known as the Labyrinth of Egypt, a myth or a hidden archive. According to Herodotus, the labyrinth was a colossal administrative structure. Some believe it served as a state archive, others that it housed temples for Egypt's 42 nomes provinces. It was described as so vast and complex that even the most prepared would get lost inside without a guide. Other ancient historians, such as Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, also mentioned it, lending greater credibility. But if they all saw it, why have we not found it? In the 19th century, archaeologist Flinders Petrie claimed to have discovered remains of the supposed labyrinth near Hawara, south of Fayum. He found column bases and walls, but most of the structure, he said, was buried beneath the water table. More recently, in 2008, an expedition by the Mataha Institute, in collaboration with Cairo University, used ground-penetrating radar and detected architectural anomalies right beneath the area identified by Petrie. The report was promising, but a full excavation was never permitted. Why not? Lack of resources? Institutional disinterest? Or something they don't want unearthed? What could the labyrinth conceal? If such a structure exists, it could contain inscriptions, king lists, forgotten rituals, an archive of Egyptian history like no other. The most fascinating legend says that Egypt's most sacred knowledge may have been stored there: Hermetic texts, treatises on the cosmos, even the mythical Book of Thoth, which we'll discuss later. Is this all exaggeration from the ancients? A confusion with other buildings? Or are we literally walking above Egypt's greatest unrevealed secret? Tell us what you think. Do you believe the labyrinth is real? Write in the comments. Beneath Saqqara, history breathes. We want to know how many of you are ready for the past to rise again. Keep watching, because what comes next connects with something even more unsettling: a set of hieroglyphs, so strange that for years, many thought they were fake, and yet they're still there, carved in stone, marking a truth no one dares explain. Mystery 4. The impossible hieroglyphs of Abydos. Airplanes, helicopters, and submarines in an ancient Egyptian temple, or an illusion wrapped in centuries of controversy? In the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, one of Upper Egypt's most venerated sanctuaries, there is a relief that has baffled archaeologists, skeptics, and believers for decades. Among the carved stone columns, amid the names of pharaohs and divine rituals, appears something that shouldn't be there: a cluster of hieroglyphs that seem to depict modern technology. Yes, you heard that right. A helicopter, a submarine, and what some describe as an airplane, or even a futuristic craft. A sign of time travel? Contact with advanced civilizations? For some alternative researchers, these carvings are visual evidence that the ancient Egyptians may have had contact with advanced beings, whether humans from the future or visitors from other worlds. Their interpretation rests on the strikingly recognizable shapes of the carvings. One appears to have rotors like an Apache helicopter, another has an elongated body and cockpit like a jet, yet another, long and streamlined, evokes the silhouette of a submarine. But what does traditional Egyptology say? The official explanation: archaeologists argue this is the result of overlapping hieroglyphs carved over time. In this case, inscriptions from the reign of Ramses II were engraved over earlier reliefs of Seti I. The passage of centuries, erosion, and recarving produced ambiguous shapes, similar to palimpsests on stone. The hypothesis is that where one glyph once said eternal rule or celestial power, another was carved on top, and the visual effect is a remarkable coincidence. But even accepting that theory, the precision of the shapes remains unsettling. Why those shapes in particular? Why do they appear grouped together? Why, in centuries of other overlaps, have no similar images ever formed? Pareidolia, or something more? Many scientists argue the phenomenon is pareidolia, the brain's tendency to see familiar figures where none exist, like spotting shapes in clouds or faces on the moon. But others ask, why in one of Egypt's most sacred temples, right where the flower of life and eternal resurrection were venerated, do symbols appear that connect with the future? What if those shapes weren't accidental? What if history, like so many times before, still hides symbols we do not yet know how to read? Question for you: what do you think? A random overlap, or the imprint of something more? Leave it in the comments with this phrase: the walls also whisper. Keep watching until the end, because what comes next lies buried even deeper, inside a tomb that changed everything we thought we knew about the pharaohs, yet still left questions unanswered to this day. Mystery 5. The nameless tomb of the Valley of the Kings. An unexpected burial, objects out of place, and the echo of an identity erased. Who was the nameless pharaoh? In the heart of the Valley of the Kings, where silence weighs as heavy as stone, lies a tomb that puzzled even the most seasoned experts. It was discovered in 2005, and the first surprise was its location, just a few meters from Tutankhamun's tomb. But the second surprise was even stranger. Inside, there were no dazzling treasures, no golden sarcophagi, no hieroglyphs on the walls, only 7 plain coffins, sealed, and inside them, human bodies wrapped in linen, no names, no identity, an emergency burial, a hidden secret. This tomb is known as KV63. Unlike other royal tombs, it did not appear to be prepared for the eternal rest of a single pharaoh. Instead, it seemed like an improvised deposit, a place used in haste. Initial analyses revealed that the coffins were empty or contained only fragmentary remains. Some had poorly finished funerary masks. Others showed signs of reuse. Was it a hiding place? A funerary storeroom? A plundered tomb resealed afterward? And even more disturbing, there are no inscriptions, no cartouches, just silence. The hypotheses: an auxiliary chamber of Tutankhamun. Some believe it may have been used by royal embalmers as a storage space during the young pharaoh's preparations. A secret burial. Others argue that bodies may have been hidden there to protect them from looting, perhaps even relatives of Tutankhamun. An unfinished tomb. Was it abandoned before being completed? The lack of decoration could support this idea, but it doesn't explain its proximity or its apparent use. Why does it matter? Because KV63 breaks the rules of the Valley of the Kings. It doesn't fit. It doesn't match the patterns of funerary architecture. And even today, nearly 2 decades after its discovery, it still has not revealed whom it belonged to or why it was built. In Egypt, being forgotten was the worst fate for the dead. To erase a name was to die twice, and this tomb seems designed to ensure its story remains silent. Reflection for you: what is more unsettling, an empty tomb or a nameless one? Leave it in the comments with this phrase: silence also keeps secrets. If this mystery made you think, hit like and share this video, and subscribe to Cronoearth if you want to keep exploring history's hidden voids. Because what comes next is not a void, it is an object, one we still don't know how it was made. Mystery 6. The unfinished obelisk of Aswan, the stone that never rose. It was meant to be the greatest obelisk ever built, but something went wrong, and there it lies, stretched across the quarry, an echo of grandeur that never stood, but still speaks. In the scorching quarries of Aswan, in southern Egypt, lies one of the greatest stone enigmas of the ancient world. It is not a pyramid, not a temple, not a tomb. It is just a stone, but not just any stone. It is a colossus frozen in time, an obelisk that was never raised, yet whose story still towers above us in unanswered questions. It is known as the unfinished obelisk, and although it never touched the sky, it is in many ways more impressive than those that did. An impossible feat, even today, at more than 41 meters long and weighing an estimated 1,200 tons, this block of pink granite would have surpassed any other obelisk erected by the ancient Egyptians. To put it into perspective, that's more than the weight of 2 fully loaded commercial airplanes. And yet it was being carved with rudimentary tools, diorite hammerstones, copper chisels, and a technique requiring millimetric precision under extreme conditions. Everything seemed to be going well, until a fatal crack appeared in the bedrock. In that instant, the dream of raising the greatest obelisk ever built shattered. The project was abandoned, the work left unfinished, but the mystery was only beginning. How did they plan to move it? This is the great question. Moving a 1,200-ton block from the quarry to the river, transporting it along the Nile, and raising it upright in a sacred temple, without cranes, without steel, without modern technology, is quite simply a feat that defies logic. And yet, they tried. Why? Did they trust in techniques now lost to us? Did they have methods that combined science, collective labor, and symbolism we no longer fully understand? Some theories suggest the obelisk was never meant to be raised, that its function was purely symbolic, a monument of devotion carved directly into the sacred rock, as an offering to the sun god, or as a training ground for royal artisans. Others believe the crack was not an accident, but a warning, a message of limitation, a reminder that even the most ambitious empires face natural barriers, and that not everything can be mastered. What it left behind, and what it still conceals, the unfinished obelisk leaves us with more than a mystery. It leaves traces, visible tool marks across the granite. It leaves questions about the technical ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians, and it leaves a lesson. Sometimes, what is left incomplete. Through it, we can study quarrying methods, extraction phases, and architectural planning, but it also forces us to look beyond engineering. What idea was so powerful that it justified such an effort, and why, when it failed, was it never attempted again? Reflect with us. Can failure become legacy? Is this stone a mistake, or a message we still don't know how to read? Leave it in the comments with the phrase, "Even stone keeps secrets." We've reached the halfway point of this documentary, which means you're among those who refuse to settle for the obvious. Thank you for continuing to explore with us. What comes next is not carved in stone, but hidden in words, and it could change what we think we know about the sacred books of ancient Egypt. Shall we continue? Mystery 7. The Book of the Dead. Guide, ritual, or hidden code. It wasn't just a funerary text. It was a map to eternity. But what else was hidden between its lines? Imagine a book that not only accompanied the dead, but also prepared the living for the other world. Such was the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells, instructions, and formulas that the ancient Egyptians believed were essential to cross into the afterlife. For centuries, these writings were placed inside tombs, inscribed on sarcophagi, papyri, or walls. Some versions were personalized for the deceased, others were more generic, but they all shared the same purpose: to ensure passage through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, and reach final judgment before Osiris. And although many see it as just another religious text, the truth is that its structure, its symbols, and its omissions continue to puzzle Egyptologists and linguists. Where is the mystery? Because beyond myth, no two books of the dead are alike, and some fragments seem to be more than spiritual instructions. There are passages that allude to astronomical knowledge, precise geographical references, and even mathematical formulas disguised as verses. Could it be that the Book of the Dead was, in part, a compendium of encoded scientific wisdom? What if some of its spells were veiled ways of preserving dangerous or sacred information? What if what was written as ritual also had practical value? Here are some puzzling fragments. Spell 125, the Judgment of the Soul, a key text, but in some versions it is truncated, omitted, or altered. The use of constellations and celestial coordinates to guide the soul. Diagrams that don't match any known representation of the afterlife, but do match lost ancient maps. Even today, parts of the content remain only partially interpreted, and although versions have been translated, many Egyptologists agree we do not fully understand what it says, or why it says it that way. What do you think? Was it just a ceremonial text, or was there more to it? Leave your opinion in the comments with the phrase, "Not everything sacred can be seen," because what comes next is not written in books, but buried underground, and it still waits to be discovered. Mystery 8. The whereabouts of Cleopatra's tomb. She was a queen, a diplomat, a strategist, and the lover of two of Rome's most powerful men. But when she died, the world lost more than a monarch. It lost her trace. Cleopatra VII, the last queen of Egypt, is one of the most studied and portrayed figures of the ancient world. Her life has been the subject of countless texts, films, and theories. Yet her tomb, the place where her remains supposedly rest alongside those of Mark Antony, according to many sources, has never been found. That fact alone is an enigma. According to the Roman historian Plutarch, Cleopatra was buried with Mark Antony in majestic fashion in a tomb built near the Temple of Isis. But that tomb, if it ever existed, remains hidden. What makes its disappearance so mysterious? Unlike other pharaohs, whose burial sites were recorded, Cleopatra vanishes from the funerary map. For centuries, archaeologists have searched in vain for clues in Alexandria, a city devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, much of which now lies beneath the sea. Other researchers focus on Taposiris Magna, about 50 kilometers from Alexandria, where recent excavations have uncovered temples, burial chambers, and tunnels that may be connected to the queen. But beyond the physical location, a deeper question arises. Was her tomb deliberately hidden? Some believe Cleopatra ordered her burial in secret to prevent Roman desecration. Others suggest Rome, eager to erase her legacy, eliminated every trace of her resting place. There is also the theory that her tomb remains sealed, safe, waiting to be found, and that inside might lie historical treasures, lost documents, and even personal objects that could redefine our understanding of her. What if such a discovery could change everything? Because finding Cleopatra's tomb would not just mean locating a site, it would open a definitive window onto the end of Egypt as an independent kingdom, and perhaps help us better understand the woman who defied Rome, and whose death marked the twilight of an era. What about you? Do you think her tomb lies beneath the sea, sealed on land, or never existed as we've been told? Write it in the comments with the phrase, "Cleopatra's legacy still waits." If this mystery captured you, hit like and share it with fellow history lovers. Now let's move on to the next mystery. Mystery 9. The astronomical alignment of Egyptian temples. Was Egypt a civilization obsessed with death or with the cosmos? The temples, oriented with a precision that still astonishes, seem to point to something far beyond chance. At first glance, Egyptian temples appear to have been built purely with grandeur and devotion. But when viewed from above, a pattern emerges, one that has nothing to do with architecture, but with the stars. From Karnak to Abu Simbel, passing through Edfu and Dendera, many temples are aligned with millimetric accuracy to key points in the sky. Solstices, equinoxes, sacred constellations, all seem to form part of a deliberate design. Coincidence, or advanced astronomical knowledge? At Abu Simbel, twice a year, the morning sun travels down a 60-meter corridor and illuminates the face of Ramses II with perfect precision. Exact dates: February 22 and October 20. The Karnak complex, one of the largest sanctuaries ever built, is aligned with the winter solstice. The Temple of Hathor at Dendera includes a zodiac carved in stone that shows the Egyptians' understanding of constellations and planetary cycles. But how did they achieve such accuracy without telescopes or modern technology? Some experts believe the ancient Egyptians used rudimentary but effective instruments such as murjets and gnomons. Others suggest their connection with the sky was more ritual and symbolic than purely technical. What if the sky was their calendar? They not only predicted the flooding of the Nile by observing Sirius, they also seemed to believe that pharaohs joined the stars after death. These alignments weren't decorative, they were symbolic portals, axes linking Earth and cosmos, human and divine. And so the mystery arises: was this knowledge the product of centuries of observation? Or was it inherited wisdom from an even older source, now forgotten? What do you think? Were the temples designed as stone telescopes? Leave us your thoughts in the comments with the phrase, "Egypt looked to the sky." We're nearing the end of this journey. If this part surprised you or gave you a new perspective, support us with a like, share it with someone curious about the secrets of the past, and subscribe to Cronoearth to keep discovering how an ancient civilization was able to read the universe by carving it into stone. Mystery 10. The stone-cutting technology we still don't understand. How did the ancient Egyptians cut granite blocks with a precision that challenges even modern engineering? On the Giza Plateau in Aswan, in Saqqara, there is something beyond colossi and hieroglyphs. There are stones, but not just any stones. Granite, diorite, basalt, materials so hard that today we would need industrial tools to shape them. And yet in Egypt, these blocks were polished, carved, and fitted with millimetric precision more than 4,000 years ago. How did they do it? The unfinished obelisk of Aswan, for example, measures over 40 meters and weighs around 1,200 tons. It was abandoned in the quarry, but the tool marks still visible do not correspond to copper, the metal they were supposedly using. Some surfaces are so perfectly smooth they look as if they were cut with lasers. In temples like the Valley Temple or the Osirian at Abydos, blocks fit together like pieces of a three-dimensional puzzle. No mortar, no gaps wide enough for even a razor blade. And here lies the mystery. How did they achieve such precision without steel, without circular saws, without industrial diamonds? The hypotheses abound. Some archaeologists suggest sand was used as an abrasive. Others propose giant saws operated by teams of workers. Some believe the secret lay in knowledge of sound and vibration, forgotten techniques combining science, intuition, and time. And then there are the boldest theories, that the Egyptians inherited a lost technology from even older cultures. Is that possible? The absence of tools in the archaeological record only fuels the doubt. Whatever the case, the truth is that the precision of these cuts is still unexplained, and if science has no definitive answers yet, the mystery remains open. Tell us in the comments, do you think the ancient Egyptians knew something we have forgotten? Right, stone does not lie. And now we arrive at the final mystery. Listen closely. What you are about to discover is not just the conclusion of this journey, it is one of the most powerful revelations, one that could forever change the way you see ancient Egypt and what it truly left us. Mystery 11. The legacy that defies time. Why does ancient Egypt still call to us? There are civilizations that disappear and others that become eternal. Ancient Egypt is not just a chapter of history, it is a constant presence, a distant voice that thousands of years later still echoes. And the real mystery, the final one, is this. Why are we still so fascinated? What is it about Egypt that never stops speaking to us? Think about this. More than 4,000 years have passed since the pyramids were raised. And yet today, right now, you are listening to this story. In a world saturated with technology, artificial intelligence, digital noise, we are still searching for answers in ancient tombs, in weathered hieroglyphs, in rituals no one practices anymore, but that somehow still affect us. Why? Because Egypt represents what we have lost. It represents a world where knowledge was also sacred, where every symbol had a purpose, where time was not a race, but a cycle. The Egyptians did not just build temples, they raised ideas, they carved questions, they imagined death not as disappearance, but as passage, and they lived preparing for that journey as one prepares to cross into eternity. Today we live with our backs to death. They looked it in the face, we bury silence, they listen to it. Perhaps that is the key. Egypt draws us in because it confronts us. It makes us see how small we are, and at the same time, how transcendent we could be. The Egyptian legacy is not only in the gold of their tombs, it is in what it forces us to feel: wonder, humility, awe, and above all, questions, because that is what survives time. Not the answers, but the questions well asked. Who were they? What did they know that we still have not understood? How could they build so much with so little? And why did they leave clues that seem meant for us? Every time an archaeologist unearths a tomb, every time a hidden chamber appears in a pyramid, every time a new text is deciphered, something within us awakens, as if Egypt were not ancient history, but a living inheritance waiting to be understood. And if you've made it this far, you already know Egypt still speaks, and you are part of those who still listen. Leave it in the comments with the phrase, "Egypt still speaks." Let this phrase multiply. Let others remember too that the past still has something urgent to say. Share this documentary with those who think history has already been told. Show them that there are pages yet unwritten, and truth still buried, but not lost. Subscribe to Cronoearth and activate the notification bell. Don't do it just to follow a channel. Do it so these questions remain alive, so this community, one that refuses to settle for what has already been told, keeps growing. Because here, we don't just look at the past, we unearth it, we listen to it, we make it breathe. See you on the next journey.